The military quietly solved its long-range firepower problem, and barely anyone noticed. While civilians stock up on Creedmoor and chase the 300 PRC hype, Special Forces locked in a round that hits harder than 50 cal at half the weight. Why is this sniper killer machine gun round still flying under the radar in civilian circles? In this video, we're diving into the secret caliber the military has been quietly stockpiling. Civilians miss the fact that it's been replacing medium machine guns, beating out old sniper cartridges, and slipping down in price while nobody's watching. We'll break down exactly why it might be the smartest thing none of us are buying yet. Every long-range patrol in Afghanistan's mountains remembers the moment the PKM guns appeared on the skyline. A green trace sailed in, chatter rolled off rock walls, and suddenly the fight stretched beyond 800 meters, well beyond the reach of the squad's 7.62 NATO belts. Crews worked the M240s hard, yet the bullets fell short or drifted in the stiff valley wind. Reports of those engagements piled up until Special Operations Command put the problem on paper in 2009, calling it overmatch. The brass wanted a cartridge that could outrange 7.62 by 54R, punch harder than MRAD 1, and still travel with light teams on foot. That study did more than spark complaints. It ignited the hunt for a brand new medium machine gun round. 8 years later, SOCOM wrote the wish list that would create the MG338 program, belt-fed, sub-24-pound gun, effective to 2 kilometers, chambered in a 338 class cartridge. Industry read the fine print and knew 338 Leipua had feeding quirks and links. The answer arrived from an unexpected source, Jimmy Sloan's Wildcat from 2008. Sloan had sketched a cartridge that would seat 300-grain bullets deep enough to fit a standard-length action while still running hot. Norma saw the potential, adopted the design, and by 2010 the 338 Norma Magnum earned CIP certification. Case length stopped at 63.3 millimeters, nearly 6 shorter than Leipua, which let engineers build shorter actions and, critically, straighter feed paths for belts. SOCOM test officers noticed, and the younger cartridge slid quietly ahead of its big brother. Ballistics sealed the deal. Launch a 300-grain Sierra Match King at about 2,700 feet per second, and you get almost 4,850 foot-pounds at the muzzle, roughly double a 147-grain M80A1. The bullet stays supersonic beyond 1,600 yards, so wind doesn't kick it offline the way it smears 7.62 NATO. Drift figures drop by roughly 40%, which means fewer mills dialed, fewer corrections shouted across a radio, and faster follow-up bursts. Recoil is closer to a 300 Win Mag than a 50 BMG, so gunners keep sights on target instead of riding a bucking tripod. Put another way, a two-man element can throw energy usually reserved for heavy machine guns while carrying ammo half the weight of 50 caliber links. Numbers look impressive in a table, but they need guns to prove them. Barrett answered first with the Mark 22 MRAD, the bolt rifle now riding in SOCOM and Army sniper packs. Flip a pair of torque screws and the barrel swaps among 7.62, 300 Norma, and 338 Norma. Operators like the folding stock that latches over the bolt handle, letting the rifle sit tight in a drag bag. That modularity lets units tailor caliber to mission without lugging extra rifles through rotors or ramp doors. Accuracy hovers under 1 minute of angle if the wind reader does its part. And the Army thought highly enough to sign a contract worth nearly $50 million for 2,800 systems. If the MRAD carries the cartridge with precision, SIG's MG338 carries it with volume. The first prototypes appeared in 2018 wearing a short recoil impulse averaging barrel sleeve and a QD suppressor tuned for the big bore's gas flow. Engineers trimmed the receiver until the whole gun balanced at 22 pounds, just 4 above a bare-bones M249. SOCOM range rats who fired the test guns swear the recoil feels like an unsuppressed M4. Thanks to that sliding barrel, the gun feeds from left to right, charges either side, and runs with or without the can by flipping a gas block knob. During safety trials, the prototypes chewed through belts at 600 rounds per minute and rang steel at a mile. No wonder conventional Army offices peeked over SOCOM's shoulder and started drafting their own replacement for the M240. General Dynamics and Knight's Armament entered the same arena with their lightweight medium machine gun and LWMG designs, each using unique recoil reduction tricks, GD with a rotating bolt in a clamshell upper, KAC with the constant recoil buffer perfected in the 6x35 LAMG. Even China couldn't resist, Norinco rolled a 338 NM clone onto an Arms Expo table, complete with spring-loaded barrel shroud and a left-side half-handguard that hints at quick-swap barrels. When rivals reverse engineer an American caliber, you know you're on the right track. While the military irons out procurement, civilian shooters are living in parallel universes. Match rifles in 6.5 Creedmoor pop up on every firing line. Marketing for 300 PRC fills magazines. Meanwhile, 338 Norma Magnum sits in the shadows, partly because factory ammo feels pricey. Black Basin's price tracker tells the story. From mid-January to the end of May 2025, the lowest online price slid from $3.90 to an all-time low of $3.51 a round, resting at $3.52 today. That is roughly 5% under the 12-month average, yet still expensive beside bulk Creedmoor. The gap shrinks once you crunch the energy. Divide cost by muzzle energy, and 338 NM starts to look frugal compared with boutique small-bore matchloads. For reloaders, the math improves again, although access to components is the catch. Reloading charts from Norma and Hodgdon give a roadmap. A 250-grain Sierra can sit over 89 grains of H1000 for 2,800 feet per second, or run 92 grains of Ramshot Magnum at nearly 2,870. The heavy 300-grain Burger Hybrid likes 82 grains of H1000 for 2,590, or 101 grains of US 869 for 2,730, if you've got room in the case and a chronograph to keep pressures honest. Federal 215M primers light the big columns of slow powder, and cases hold together up to about 65,000 psi. Barrel life hovers between 1,500 and 2,000 rounds with careful cleaning. That sounds short to weekly PRS shooters, but hardly phases groups that fire fewer than 100 rounds per training day. Component sourcing is the trick. A quick sweep of catalogs shows 286 variants in 30 caliber bullets, but only 72 in 338. Still, the essentials exist. Norma sells Oryx and GTX hunting pills. Barnes cuts the sleek LRX. Sierra offers Match Kings. And Hornady's ELD match is rumored to hit shelves soon. Powders such as Retumbo, Reloader 33, and the new Stayball HD all have pressure-tested recipes. Brass costs $3 each if Lapua is stamped on the head, a bit lower for Norma. Spread that across 6 or 7 reloads and the case price fades. For shooters thinking beyond personal recreation, the cartridge's dual nature matters. A single load can serve a bolt gun on Overwatch and feed a belt gun defending a patrol base. That simplifies logistics in a crisis. 40 linked rounds of 338 NM weigh about half what 40-50 caliber rounds weigh, yet they still wreck light vehicles, drill engine blocks, and beat steel plates rated for level 3 at 1,000 meters when the bullet carries a tungsten core. If a small team needs to sprint with firepower, this cartridge brings heavy gun authority without the bulk. Price trends hint at an opportunity. Black Basin's chart lines plateaued through April at $370 a round, then slumped in May. The drop may reflect larger production runs now that Barrett and SIG put real orders on the books. It could also foreshadow surplus hitting the commercial channel. SOCOM has already taken delivery of test lots labeled multi-purpose, 272 grain fragmenting penetrators, and armor-piercing 300 grain monometal darts. Should the Army shift toward 6.8 by 51 exclusively for its new squad guns, warehouses full of experiment ammo could land on the civilian market the way M118LR did during the Iraq drawdown. Veterans remember buying cases of that long-range gold for less than $1 a shot. Keep an eye on government auctions. The civilian blind spot around 338 NM stems not just from cost, but from perception. Social media feeds lean toward calibers with clever names and budget rifles. The Norma round carries a reputation as military-only or overkill, even though handloaders can tune it down for elk at 600 yards or steel matches at a mile. Marketing budgets haven't pushed the cartridge. The buzz comes instead from soft-spoken snipers and armorers who post groups rather than memes. As a result, many shooters don't realize reloading for 338 NM costs about the same per shot as buying premium factory 300 Win Mag. Once powder and primer shortages ease, that gap narrows further. While brass sits in stock, rifles themselves have multiplied. Seekins dropped the HIT Pro with a quick change barrel and AR pattern trigger, and Desert Tech's HTI Bullpup lets shooters swap from 375 CHATAC to 338 Norma in the field. German builder Fortmeyer sells the M2002, a folding stock beast known for single-digit vertical spreads at 2,000 meters. Each of these rifles uses AICS-compatible mags that seat the 3.60-inch overall length common to load data. So, the days of single-feeding long rounds are fading. Reloading requires some care because the cartridge runs up against mag length limits sooner than Lapua. Seat a 300-grain bullet past the recommended 3.690 inches and you may jam the ogive in the lands. Stick to book lengths and work the powder slowly. Norma's URP powder shows max 80 grains under a 250-grain Match King for 2857 feet per second, and 78 grains still clocks 2709 while easing pressure several thousand psi. Hodgdon's Stayball HD promises lower temperature sensitivity, and early chrono strings support that claim. Extreme spread shrinks below 20 feet per second even when the sun shifts. Magnetospeed logs also show the cartridge reward suppressors. A full-size can tames muzzle blast to 300 Win Mag levels, which spares spotters and keeps signature low. That matters for hunters on western ridges and for property owners who want to practice without rattling every roof in the valley. Back pressure goes up, but bolt guns shrug it off. Belt feds handle it with a simple gas regulator click. SIG's test team used two settings, one for stealth suppressed fire where the bolt coasts, another for adverse feeding if dust fouls the piston. All of this capability tempts planners to think beyond sniper hides. The Army's March 2025 request for proposals describes a convertible general-purpose machine gun that can swap between 6.8 and 338 Norma. The idea is straightforward. Issue 6.8 belts to line companies for most fights. Then give the same gun a heavier barrel and 338 feed tray when the mission needs reach. If such a weapon wins, unit armorers could pack both calibers on deployment and change over in minutes. That would finally break the decades-old split between rifle caliber and heavy caliber machine guns. However, if brass at the Pentagon decide to stay with 6.8 alone, citing commonality with rifles, thousands of test barrels and pallets of ammo could move to the Defense Logistics Agency disposal list. Civilian shooters who monitor GovPlanet the way day traders watch NASDAQ might score once-in-a-lifetime deals. Chinese interest adds another wrinkle. Norinco's prototype draws from American open sources, but if the firm follows its export playbook, the gun will appear at Abu Dhabi or Karachi show's price to underbid Western models. That could motivate policymakers to accelerate domestic fielding, if only to maintain qualitative edge. Either scenario boosts global demand for the cartridge, which would encourage major powder and brass producers to allocate more resources. More supply usually means lower cost stateside. Some viewers may worry that buying into a niche caliber invites orphan status. History shows otherwise when the military invests. Think of 4570 after Springfield rifles vanished, or 7.62 NATO after the M14 left active duty. Both calibers survive in hunting aisles. With Barrett, SIG, and the Army writing multi-million-dollar purchase orders, 338 Norma's shelf space is safer than many boutique rounds launched at SHOT Show each year. Practical recommendations flow from that confidence. If you already hand-load a Magnum and crave wind immunity beyond a mile, pick up a couple hundred pieces of Norma brass now while distributors still place them on clearance. Grab slow powders like Reloader 33 or Retumbo the moment they hit the shelf, because those bottles work across multiple big Magnums. Work up a 250-grain load around 88 grains of MagPro or 87 of H1000, confirm velocity around 2800, and then settle your dope card out to 1400 yards. If you prefer thump, explore a 300-grain hybrid over 82 grains of H1000 seated at 3.690 inches, velocity lands near 2600, and energy downrange stays above 308 muzzle output past 1800 yards. Hunters who stalk elk, moose, or bear inside 1,000 will find 200-grain AccuBonds devastating without beating up the shooter. Norma's official data puts 85.5 grains of URP at 3,182 feet per second from a 26-inch barrel. That speed yields a point-blank 0 to 300 yards and still hammers with 2,400 foot-pounds at 500. Recoil impulse stays mild when a quality brake is fitted. Cost remains the biggest talking point around any Magnum. Right now, factory loads sit at $70 for a 20-round Norma box, but online sales often bundle free shipping that erases part of the difference. Reloading drives that figure down to around $2.10 a shot, given current component prices, And that is on par with precision 300 Win Mag handloads. Until you, less. Manufacturers scale up bullet production. Those savings come by buying in bulk. Many shooters pool orders with 2 or 3 friends to grab 8-pound kegs of powder under one hazmat fee. But what do you think? Could this be the smartest cartridge to stockpile for civilians before the next ammo boom? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Would you run this in a bolt gun or a belt fed? Got a preferred load or rifle build? Let us know below. Then hit like, share this with your shooting buddies, subscribe for more deep dives, and tap that bell so you never miss what's next.